Happy to have Brett here with us today. Brett is an experienced political advocate, having served as a Kansas state lawmaker, a member of a caucus and campaign leadership, a union leader, and a congressional campaign staffer. Currently serves as the state policy manager for American Atheists, where he manages state-level advocacy efforts through grassroots engagement, communication with state lawmakers and partner organizations, and the development of testimony and advocacy resources in order to advance positive legislation and block negative legislation. And I know this is a really important initiative for all of our communities. Brett, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thanks, Dave. Really glad to be joining you all. I am the new guy at American Atheists, so it's nice to meet many of you for the first time. And actually, I've been at it long enough now that starting to see some familiar faces. As Dave said, I served in the Kansas House for 5 years. I started my career as a teacher and then got involved with Kansas NEA, our Teachers Association. And when I ran for the legislature, I did it as a complete amateur. In Kansas, it's a small enough scale that people like me who are just, fired up about an issue. And in my case at that time, it was funding for schools, could jump in, could learn as much as they possibly could in a hurry and still have a chance at winning. I got elected in 2016. I'll let you guess which ticket I ran on. Suffice to say, it was an awkward election night party for my little state house campaign, and an odd time to be getting elected. But I was grateful for the opportunity. I also helped launch an organization called Prairie Roots, which is a small nonprofit in Kansas that's focused around engaging less frequent voters or non-voters who are registered to vote, finding out what the barriers to them participating are and helping break those down. And really, I see my current role with American Atheists as an outgrowing of those things. What I really enjoy doing is helping people move from wherever they are on their level, sort of ladder of engagement up the next step. With American Atheists, I have a role tracking legislation across all 50 states and also Puerto Rico and the District of Columbia. We offer professional testimony on bills that we're interested in. We work with great partners like some of them that you've heard here today. And we work on issues that, you might expect, right? We, along with our partners here, we work on issues around the separation of church and state. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Christian nationalist organization Project Blitz, but we're part of a coalition with SCA and AU called Blitz Watch that tracks those sort of nefarious efforts to just insert religion into as many different aspects of government as possible. And we stand with our partners in opposition to those things. We also work on legislation to stop legislation or policies where folks are using religion to harm others. So as some of the previous speakers mentioned, sometimes that takes you into issues of reproductive rights, often takes us into standing up for the LGBTQ community. Not all of that is purely defensive work. Obviously, there are, new bad bills filed about these things, and we work to stop those. But a lot of it gets to be proactive policy at the state level. A bill that we're working on in a lot of places is around transparency for denials of care by hospital systems if they don't provide gender affirming care or they deny reproductive care. We are offering testimony just next week in Massachusetts on a bill to end child marriage. We work proactively around LGBTQ protections, offering secular recovery programs for defendants and that sort of thing. So we try to do good as much as we can across as many places. One of the things that is unique about my role is I get to really engage on the grassroots work. So I'm the state policy manager, but I'm one person. And as I said before, we work across 50 states, DC and Puerto Rico. I'm fairly busy, but I do not quite have enough time to, function as an on the ground, representative in all of those places. So really where we focus our energy a lot is around that grassroots work and engaging volunteers on the ground. One of the ways that we've been doing this lately is we are piloting a project advocacy teams. We now have 5 states where we are launching these. California being our newest, we are just putting it together there. So if this is something that you're interested in, by all means, get in touch because we'd love to connect you with the group we're forming in California. Our state advocacy teams are groups of volunteers that come together just to work at the state level. In some cases, these are people who have a long history of advocacy. In some cases, it's the very first step. Like I said, one of the things I really love is just meeting people where they are on this sort of action and helping them take the next step. So for some of our members, we're providing them sort of the form for outreach to a legislator, and they, as the constituent or as someone on the ground in their state, are just making the email introductions and trying to set up meetings on issues. For some people, they are further along than that, and they are taking the meetings themselves with lawmakers, and they are talking about positive or negative legislation and really making their case. We provide a lot of resources to these teams too. So we use a bill tracker to track legislation. We train up our volunteers on how to use that themselves, so they're not just relying on our staff to track those things, though we do. We have a program called Base Camp that helps organize everyone and share information across things. We provide talking points and testimony and all of these things, but really the goal is to empower people on the ground in their own states to make their voices heard. I mentioned we're just getting this started in California. We're also launching one in Colorado right now. In this past year, we've had teams in Florida, Oklahoma, and Virginia. We're looking to add in a couple more places as well. So part of the question we wrestle with here is, what is the point of, the grassroots advocacy, right? I think most of us who pay attention to politics know that you can get a lot done if you have hired lobbyists in places, right? Sometimes that's for things that we really like, and sometimes we don't like that influence so much, depending on the issue. It's hard sometimes for citizens to find their role within that. And it can be frustrating, right? Because this is long-term work. You have to sustain it. You don't win every time that you do it. And sometimes lawmakers are not persuadable on an issue for good or bad reasons. My example always in Kansas was that, I listened to my constituents. I kept track of phone calls and emails and engaged with those. And on a lot of issues, I really wanted to know the pulse of my community. But if it came to, something that was going to be tearing down the rights of women or the LGBTQ community, I was the first to admit that I could have gotten as many emails or phone calls as, those trying to pass those regressive policies wanted. It was not a persuadable vote on those issues. And we don't always know which lawmakers, are open-minded on which issues or what all of the different factors weighing on them are. And part of the important work of advocacy is we don't know, right? We don't know when we're going to be the tipping point. But we know that if we do it day in and day out, if we keep making our voices heard, then when that tipping point is there, we are there and we're making the effort. It's also just important, I think, as citizens, just to be involved and to make our voices heard, especially from the atheist community, right? There's great information that Debbie gave about how we are a significant voting bloc, but not everyone always knows that. So regardless of, the passage or failure of legislation, it's just important that people making laws know that we exist, that we are making ourselves heard. It's empowering, frankly, as a citizen, even when you don't win, to know that you have access to those in power and that you can make your voice heard around the values that you care about. And I think maybe the most compelling to me is we need to be organized and showing up because other people are, right? I mentioned Blitz Watch. Christian nationalists and their legislative allies are organized. They are showing up. They are barraging state legislatures, school boards, city councils, and Congress all the time. And we certainly don't want to cede that ground to them. And so it's important that whatever our skill level now is, that we kind of take that next step, right? If you've never sent an email to someone, you can sign up for an action alert. American Atheists does action alerts for the state level. If Sam doesn't mind, she's way ahead of me, I think, here, dropping the sign up there. That's an easy first step. If there's something going on in your state, we'll send you notice about it. You don't have to be a member of American Atheists to take part in that. And that's an easy first step. But if you want to move along in that, and especially talking with a crowd in California here, as we are launching our team there, if you'd like to get involved in a bigger way, email me, get in touch with us. You don't have to be a member of American Atheists to be a part of this. We are just trying to provide a platform and a coalition for people to join in to do that sort of regular work. What that looks like moving forward in California is we'll have a team that meets at least monthly of volunteers again, meeting with me and our other American Atheist staff. We'll pick proactive bills that we want to support. We'll help to find people to offer testimony. We'll help to get the word out to help people contact their legislators. If there should be negative legislation that we oppose, then we'll mobilize in the same way around that. Once the legislative session gets going in earnest, we might meet a little bit more frequently to make sure that our finger is on the pulse of things. California, that's a little bit easier. So you guys don't have quite as rushed of a session. I think our team in Virginia has a 30-day legislative session. So once that gets underway, they have to meet a little bit more frequently. But really, it's a chance to get involved, to have staff helping kind of develop you as an activist, as a volunteer, and training you up. I don't know if there's any video game players, but I almost think of it as like leveling up in a video game, right? You start at whatever level you're at, and maybe this is the teacher in me too, but what is the next skill to layer on? What is the next action to sort of build your influence and make your voice heard in the most powerful way at the state level? And the last thing I would say is you all, I should mention, I'm calling you from Kansas, so I'm in Kansas City, Kansas right now. There's a tremendous opportunity for the atheist community in California to make a difference in your own state, but in a way that impacts the entire country just by doing state legislative work. I will tell you, as a state lawmaker, and I was not alone in this, I think just about everyone across the country, if you hear of a new policy that someone's proposing, 80% of the time, the first question you ask is, well, has anyone else passed it, right? We want to see it vetted. We want to see the opportunity that has been introduced. In a state like California, where you all have elected leaders who will be more amenable to passing good policies that you believe in, you can make a difference for your own community in California, but you'll make a difference for people like me in Kansas or people in other states where we can see these policies put into place. The white Christian nationalist fear-based talking points will have a chance to be proven false, right? And we'll be able to say, hey, this has been going on in California for 3 years. These issues have not emerged. It's been a great program. This is how it's helped people. So you really have a chance to make a ripple effect that'll cause legislation to move, not just in your own backyard and other places. So I just want to reiterate, we are launching a grassroots team in California. California is a big state. We would love to have folks from all of the different groups around California, or even if you're not a part of an associated group, be a part of that, be a part of the conversation, be a part of making your voice heard. And really, if you're a member of a group somewhere in California, being someone who can kind of take that information back to your own group. Not everyone has to join a team, but you can sort of be the representative, take that back. And when there's something that really is high on your radar, you can mobilize your own group and your own neighborhood, so to speak, to get involved. But really just want to thank you all for the chance to be here and to chat with you. And please reach out if this is something you'd like to be involved with in a bigger way.
That's awesome, Brett. Thanks so much.